The laugh came first. Sharp, careless, cruel. It echoed across the bright rooftop cafe where sunlight poured over glass tables and city views, and it cut deeper than anyone expected. Alina sat there in her wheelchair, hands folded tightly in her lap, eyes fixed on a spot just beyond the skyline, as she realized the blind date she had agreed to was never real. It was a setup. A joke. And she was the punchline. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and stories that remind us what being human truly means, take a moment right now to like this video, comment your thoughts, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to the channel Midnight Tales. Your support keeps stories like this alive. Alina had learned long ago how to survive embarrassment with silence. Since the accident 3 years earlier, the world had grown louder in its judgments and quieter in its compassion. She used to walk into rooms without thinking. Now she entered them with caution, aware of eyes that lingered too long or looked away too fast. When her co-workers suggested a blind date with a successful businessman, hinting that he was different and kind, something fragile inside her dared to hope. Maybe this time, she wouldn't be pitted. Maybe she would be seen. The truth revealed itself quickly. The snickers behind her, the hurried glances at phones, the poorly hidden camera angle. She understood then that this was never about love or even curiosity. It was about entertainment. About proving something cruel. Alina felt heat rise behind her eyes, but she refused to cry. Daylight was unforgiving, and she would not give them the satisfaction. What none of them expected was the men who arrived moments later. Adrian Keller was known across the city as the youngest CEO to rebuild a failing tech firm into a global name. His reputation painted him as cold, calculating, unreachable. When he stepped onto the terrace in a simple suit, sunlight catching in his hair, the energy shifted. The laughter stopped. Phones were lowered. Suddenly, the joke felt dangerous. Adrian noticed everything. He noticed Alina first. Not the wheelchair, not the setup, but the way she held herself like someone bracing for impact. He saw the tension in her shoulders, the dignity in her stillness. And then he noticed the others, the poorly masked guilt, the anticipation of something going wrong. He understood the situation almost instantly. Instead of turning away, instead of calling it off, Adrian walked directly toward Alina and knelt in front of her so their eyes were level. In the middle of a bright afternoon, surrounded by people who had expected humiliation, he gave her his full attention. The city noise seemed to fade as he stayed there, unhurried, present, intentional. Alina didn't know what to do with that. She had prepared herself for mockery, not respect. Her heart pounded as she searched his face for signs of cruelty, but found none. Only sincerity. Only concern. Adrian took the empty chair beside her and sat, choosing her space without hesitation. He ordered drinks for both of them as if this had always been the plan. Around them, whispers started to ripple. The co-workers who had orchestrated the setup shifted uncomfortably, realizing they were no longer in control of the narrative. Alina's struggle was quiet but immense. Every moment she expected the kindness to crack, to reveal itself as another layer of the joke. Years of being underestimated had trained her to wait for disappointment. But minutes passed, and then more, and Adrian remained exactly where he was. He listened. He laughed gently at her dry humor. He asked about her art, her favorite places in the city, her dreams before and after the accident. Not once did he ask about what she had lost. He focused only on who she was. Sunlight moved across the terrace, marking the passage of time. The people who had planned to record a viral moment of humiliation now stood frozen, watching something they hadn't anticipated. This wasn't awkward. This wasn't pity. This was connection. Then Adrian did something that would leave them in tears. He stood and addressed everyone. Calmly. Clearly. In broad daylight, with nothing hidden in shadow. He spoke about dignity, about how easy it is to forget that cruelty dressed as humor still wounds deeply. He admitted he had been invited under false pretenses, but instead of anger, he expressed disappointment. Not in Alina. In them. He explained that success meant nothing if it came without empathy. That power was empty if it wasn't used to protect those being mocked. He said that Alina deserved respect, not because of her circumstances, but because she was human. Because she mattered. Silence followed. Thick and heavy. Some looked down, shame flooding their faces. Others wiped their eyes, confronted by the weight of what they had almost celebrated. Alina felt something shift inside her. For the first time since her accident, she wasn't the one shrinking under attention. She was the reason others were reflecting on themselves. Strength, she realized, didn't always mean standing. Sometimes it meant being seen and still staying. Adrian returned to her side and asked if she wanted to leave, offering choice where others had stolen it. She agreed, and as he gently pushed her wheelchair into the sunlight-filled street, something in her chest loosened. Not because a CEO had defended her, but because someone had treated her pain as real. What happened next wasn't a fairy tale ending. They didn't promise forever. But they did continue meeting. Daytime walks through busy parks. Long conversations over coffee where people stared, and neither of them cared. Alina rediscovered parts of herself she thought were gone. Adrian learned that leadership wasn't built in boardrooms alone. The co-workers who had planned the prank apologized publicly. Some cried. Some left the company. The video they had hoped would go viral never did. Instead, the story spread quietly, through whispered conversations about decency, about a moment when kindness rewrote an ending. If this story has touched your heart even a little, please take a moment now to like the video, leave a comment, and share it with someone who needs to believe that compassion still exists. Your engagement truly helps stories of hope reach more people. Before this story ends, we have one special request. Comment below with a single word that describes how this story made you feel. Your words matter more than you know. Alina would later say that the worst day of her life didn't end with humiliation, but with healing. In the brightness of day, in front of people who expected cruelty, one act of humanity reminded her that her life was not defined by a chair, a prank, or a moment of pain. It was defined by resilience, by courage, and by the simple truth that kindness, when chosen, can change everything.